Okay, so today on the Profit Podcast, as I've just mentioned in the introduction, we have Alex Lenkowski with us. Alex has been with Profit for quite a while now, and it's taken us a bit of time, Alex, but we've got you on. We've got you on eventually. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's taken plenty of time. Cheers, mate.
But hopefully it'll be worth the wait. Hopefully everyone will be glad we finally got you on here. As I mentioned in the introduction, you play a big role in the Profit education team. You run a successful PT business, and you're one of these people that just keeps continually pushing yourself forwards. You keep growing, you keep progressing. Could you give the audience a quick insight as to how you got to this point? Like, what's your journey looked like so far as a person, as a PT, as a business owner? Run us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't promise it'll necessarily be quick. Hopefully, it'll be interesting and worth listening to. I did tell Fiona actually the other day. So Fiona's my partner, for those of you that won't know. I basically told her that I was coming on the podcast, and I said, "Are you going to listen?" And she went, "Well, I listen to enough of your shit as it is." So, hopefully, everyone else finds it somewhat enjoyable. So yeah, I mean, I've been with Profit now for about 4.5 years, I think it is, which obviously isn't necessarily a long time. But when you consider the average lifespan of a PT, I suppose it's exceeded that. My journey itself probably started realistically when I was at Loughborough University and I was doing my degree down there. That was when I started playing my American football. Got me into the strength and conditioning side heavily. And when you're in that kind of environment and, you know, you're around those guys in the gym, like I remember training with quite a few of the guys who obviously are now playing elite level rugby and have gone on to play for England and stuff like that, which, you know, it's just insane when you're in the gym at the same time as those guys. So I did my degree down there. At that time, I was kind of doing my degree, playing American football, working a part-time job to help fund me being there, and then also doing some volunteer work at Leicester City as well. So I had many fingers in many a pie, which made it quite a busy time at university. And that kind of fits into my mentality overall, I suppose. That's just the way, it's just the way I operate and go about things. Whilst I was at uni, that was when I started playing American football. As I said, played for Great Britain, and was on the verge of going to the United States on a scholarship to play for one of the big colleges over there. But due to the length of time and various other reasons that I'd already been playing the game, that kind of fell through, and that was where Profit kind of cropped up. So I knew that I never wanted to be behind a desk. I never wanted to be in an office. I mean, I actually trialed it when I was at uni. One of the guys at the accommodation said, you know, would you like to sit in and run everything for us for the day? And I was like, yeah, I'll help you out. About 3 hours into it, I was like, I just felt trapped by the walls. I was like, going to start tearing things down. So I was like, I've got to get out of here. So got one of my other mates in who was living there as well at the time, and he, you know, kindly took over for me for the day, and I went off to the gym and did everything I needed to do. So I was doing that. That was kind of the moment that defined, you know, there's not a chance I'm going to be behind a desk at any point ever. So joined Profit, came in, sat down, had sort of like the interviews, met the likes of yourself and the rest of the team, and, you know, instantly knew that it was exactly where I needed to be at that point in time. Since then, since that kind of 4.5 years began, I've been, you know, moving up through the different levels that we've got, going on the different courses. I've shadowed people within Profit. I've shadowed people outside of Profit. I've been to work with the Wakefield Wildcats, who are just down the road and spend quite a bit of time in our gym, working with their youth academy. I've helped Adam Neal, who's another one of our trainers at Oldham Rugby League, and spent a bit of time with those guys. And I'm currently helping Ossett United with their S&C program. So, yeah, just tons of experience, tons of playing around, experimenting, practicing things, and getting involved with various other people. And, you know, in that time frame, kind of taking over the 8-week education for Profit. Started teaching the level 4 and level 5, so like the strength and training modules. And I'm now one of the assessors on our level 2 and level 3 course as well. So it's been an action-packed 4.5 year period, I guess.
To summarise Alex's story, he's busy. So yeah, as he just alluded to there, he has a heavy influence in our education team, teaching from levels 2 and 3 right up through the system. And then also has his own client base inside of Profit, and then S&C stuff outside of that as well. So yeah, he forgot about the client bit. Yeah, he forgot his own clients. And even that in itself is something that we've been looking at recently, and you're making a shift within that, aren't you, to obviously make room for all this stuff that you're doing. That's something we're doing together at the moment, and as part of our mentoring process is helping Alex shift how he does things so that he can keep doing more, because there's never enough that you can cram into Alex's diary for him. So we'll probably dive into some of that stuff later on. Before we do that, I asked Alex today about a few different areas he wanted to talk about, and one of the things that was fairly high up on his list was the fact that Profit for Alex is now a bit of a family affair, because since he joined, introduced his brother to the team, and he now has his auntie in the team as well, who drives all our recruitment stuff. And obviously, I think that that's an awesome thing that he's introducing people into the company and into the team. So Alex, talk to us a little bit about why he did that. What is it about Profit and those people and bringing them in? Why was that something you wanted to do?
I think, with where it started, the first sort of like opportunity for that was to introduce my brother Chris to it, he's 2 years younger than me. He's essentially a carbon copy, probably a slightly better athlete, which is highly irritating, or maybe even a much better athlete, as some might go by. But no, he's just basically like, we would hang out all the time as kids, play football together, we'd do everything together, make a mess of the house and all that kind of stuff. And I was getting so much enjoyment from it. And, our mentality that's been driven into us from as early as I can remember, I think was perfectly suited to it. So I kind of just threw it out there as a suggestion for him, and, thought it'd be a great idea for us to be able to work together and to team up and, be able to run our lives and run everything together. And, he kind of got his foot in the door. He went and sat down with Graham, and I'm sure if you speak to him about this at some point, I think he messed up on his exam, having recently just passed his level 3 course. The exam that we give to trainers on the interview.
Yeah.
And I think Graham tried to put one up and was like, "What are you doing? I thought you just passed." And he was like, "Well, yeah, but I haven't studied for this exam. If you give me this exam again next week, I guarantee I'll get 90%. And I just, that's just the way that me and him both think about everything. Like, we'll get it done eventually. So yeah, he got his foot in the door, and he's loved it ever since. And, he's made a very successful business for himself, which is going very well. And then with regards to Sue, Sue's the screening process now. She's the barrier. She's the kind of like the filter as to who gets through and who makes it into the interviews. And it's something that I think for us recruiting in this industry, it's a very, very tough one, because we get a lot of people that come through who, they like the idea of training. They like the idea of being in the gym. They like the idea of, having that control and running their own business, but they don't necessarily recognize the time and the commitment and just the level of effort that's required to go about it and actually make a success of it, as a personal trainer, but as a Profit personal trainer. We expect a different level of commitment and, just a different level of output. So she's helped out and chipped in with that. And, I won't want to tell her she's doing a good job, but she's not doing bad.
Yeah, she's doing well. Me and Sue are best mates now. We're always in touch. I've got a new best friend. So you touched on something there, Alex, that I think is worth delving into. You mentioned about the standard and the difference between what you consider a normal trainer and a Profit trainer. Can you touch on like one or two of those things? What bits do you think are different?
I think, overall, it's very difficult to say what's different, because obviously there's a lot of very successful freelance PTs out there in the industry that have been there for a long time and, do a very good job. But I think with us, it's more a case of, if you make it through that first little period, you're going to be in it for a long time, and you're going to build a very successful career, because I think the retention rate of those who qualify in the industry, if they're going to drop off, they'll drop off quickly. They'll be gone within, I think it's the first 12 months. Like, the numbers on that are crazy. But with Profit, everything's just it's just an accelerated process. Everything happens so much faster. You will build your business so much quicker. You will have so much more support. Everything just changes and steps up a gear, and you're constantly surrounded by people who are, potentially what you would consider as 2 or 3 levels above. And, their basic standard is, kind of what you would consider as an exceptional personal trainer, as opposed to, just being good and doing the simple things. So it's just a higher level of expectation, a higher level of delivery. And I think one way that the industry is going, and I think something that we're definitely getting right here at Profit, is kind of the overall lifestyle package, rather than just simply looking at the exercise and the nutrition, because I think those 2 things kind of fit in as what was expected previously by, any personal trainer. Like we do a lot of work on mindset, we do a lot of work on various other aspects and lifestyle coaching. And I think anyone can kind of come to the gym and follow a bit of a plan, but it's whether they can implement that long term. And I think that additional life coaching by the trainers is what will get better results. And I think that's what would make, essentially the difference between a Profit trainer and just someone who's just out there on their own. Like, they don't know those things. So
yeah. I think we've seen an example of that when I interviewed Adam Cummins, in terms of how he approaches nutrition and nutrition coaching, and how that has to become something that's maintainable and part of your life. And then in a little bit, when we go into some of your processes, because I heard you outline sort of a 4-step process to another trainer the other day, and I thought to myself, wow, like that's where the industry needs to go. That is the next step. And it'll be interesting for people to hear that and you justify why it is that that's your 4-step process. So I'll leave everyone on a little cliffhanger with that one. We'll close that loop in a little bit. You mentioned about the standards are being higher because of the education, the support. You're a big part of that now within the team. You play a huge role in delivering what we class as the 8-week education when trainers first join. So trainers join Profit, they get a sort of once a week education day with yourself and a couple of the other team members that take them through those initial 2 months of being a Profit trainer. Give us an idea of what that process looks like. Like, what are we teaching trainers in those first 8 weeks? What sort of things do you cover, and how important do you think that first 8 weeks is for new PTs entering the industry?
So the process itself, it's just a case of focusing on the simple things. I mean, as you say, they go through the 1-week induction, which is, we kind of introduce them to all the systems. We touch on the nutrition, the training, the goal setting aspects of it. And then the 8-week education is just a much deeper look into each of those areas specifically. So each week the trainers will turn up and we'll either be going through, so like the finances and organization aspect, they'll go through the nutrition, they'll go through the goal setting. We spend quite a bit of time getting things on the exercise side of things, correct. So we go through loads of lower body progressions and basic coaching for, the life essential techniques, being able to squat, being able to hinge and pick stuff up off the floor. And then we go through the review process as well. So each week they come along and they get something that's completely different to, so like the week previous. And it kind of just builds on their knowledge and helps them accelerate everything and get used to it all a lot quicker and feel a lot more competent. So I know that when I first walked into the gym, and, I'd just finished university about 6 months before, I looked at everything that we were doing and it was completely alien to me. And, that first week can be very, very overwhelming for a lot of people. Like, I sit with everyone on the Saturday once they've finished their week's course, and you can tell just by looking at people, their heads are fried, their brains have gone, they can't think for themselves, they've pretty much lost it. Like, they're probably sleep deprived. They might as well have gone through, it's our equivalent of Navy SEALs Hell Week, essentially.
Yep.
Although thoroughly enjoyable process, but it's tough. And, there's a lot to learn, and we're trying to pack a lot in. Like, think about the guys that we've got in our company and the experience they've got. We're trying to package that into, just 6 hours or so every Wednesday, and help them along with it so they can get better results with their clients. The other thing that I will add to that as well is they get the additional sales training every single week as well. So they benefit from that. And one of the, the biggest thing to building any business or starting off in the gym as a PT is signing up new clients. So that regular sales training and coaching with that is, it's invaluable. I think. I don't think you can really, if you were to put a price on it, I'm not sure what you would. I don't know where you would go with that.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, that either aren't part of Profit or are brand new, what the process that Alex is talking about overall is when we take trainers on, we give them an initial training week to give them like everything they're going to need when they first start. And then the 8-week process that Alex takes them through sort of goes into some of those areas in a bit more detail. And the way I like to think of it is it's a way of checking that the new trainers are actually implementing those things into their business. So it's not just, do you know them? It's, are you using them? Because if you're not, they're bloody pointless. We can give people tools, but are they actually using them on a daily basis with clients and with potential clients and things like that?
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. Like, the other thing I was going to add to that is it's very useful for us. So at the end of the 8 weeks, they sit down, they do an exam, they have a formal assessment with myself and a few of the other guys who've been tutoring on it, and with Steve as well. And we basically use that to test them on everything that we've done, and then give their mentors the feedback on it, and any areas that they need to, revisit or readdress that might be slightly weak for them. They can either come back and do it on the next one, or they get some additional help with their mentor from that as well.
Yeah, what it means is that it just gives the trainer a chance to fill any gaps that they've got in their skill set. It doesn't make them a bad person, doesn't make them a bad trainer. It just means that there's something they need a bit more support on, and that's what our system's built for, isn't it? It's to provide that. So that's an awesome thing to have. So with the 8-week education, that's obviously primarily built for brand new trainers. That's why that exists. So on that point, talk to us a little bit about some of the fundamentals that you believe new PTs need to have when they first start, when they're training clients and things like that. So regardless of whether they're a Profit trainer or not, regardless of where they are in the industry, what do you see as being the fundamentals that new trainers need when working with clients?
So from my personal opinion, your take on this might differ slightly, but my number one is just energy. I think everyone who comes into the gym and sees us is coming for something. It's that feeling of, difference in their life. And, you look out in the modern world and what everyone's doing and how everyone's walking around day to day, heads are down, everyone's holding that, that forward posture and, angled towards the floor. And I think as soon as if you can be the person that walks into the room and everyone feels better, everyone feels different, everyone feels more alive just because you've walked in there, that's going to instantly change the way that someone feels. And I think ultimately people are coming into the gyms now for that feeling of being more alive, having more energy, the ability to run around at home, if it's playing with kids, if it's, being around for another 40 or 50 years, as opposed to having the threat of, dying of heart disease or anything like that hanging over their head, then, it's a very powerful position. It's a very important thing. So I think if you're a new PT in the industry, you have just got to approach anything and everything with as much energy as you possibly can. And you will leave people feeling different, thinking about you differently, because you're giving them something that probably no one else in their life is giving them, even their boss at work who's supposed to motivate them and, potentially drive them on to further their career or further sales or whatever it is. They might be lacking in that as well. So everyone seems to struggle with it. And I think, if you can live your life like that, it won't just be your business or your clients that will benefit, but, your own relationships and your own version of life. And, whilst you're kind of hot off the course, you're eager to get started, you've got, just a world of opportunity. If you go at anything with energy, good things will happen automatically. Like, I would expect a new trainer to make mistakes. I would expect a new trainer to have some gaps in their knowledge, whether it's around training, nutrition, stress, lifestyle coaching, goal setting, whatever. You'd expect those gaps to be there. But if you've got the energy and the enthusiasm to follow through with it, you'll be keen, you'll listen to clients, you'll go learn things, you'll answer questions that they've got, you'll study in your own time, you'll do all the little bits that are needed to kind of push you forward. So yeah, that would be my number one. And I don't know about you, but if I was selecting a trainer myself and I walked into the gym and I saw someone sort of like sat down, head down on the phone, looking tired and exhausted, there's not a chance I'm going to require the services of that person. I just think that's a complete no-go.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about what you've just said in all of that is it's almost less about what you know and more about what you do as a trainer, because trainers get really caught up when they first start in their gaps in their knowledge. You know, I don't know this about nutrition yet. I don't know this about training yet. I need to go and do S&C. I need to go and do blah, blah, blah. And the reality is that for the most part, you just need to get in front of some people and impact them without even sharing that knowledge yet. You can have a positive impact without telling anyone about nutrition or exercise, and you can get them doing something that's way above what they were capable of doing before, but to you it might seem quite low level. So yeah, I think it's an important point. It's not always about what you know, especially early on. It's just about doing and being that source of energy for people, and then learning as you go. Like you say, if you've got the energy, you'll learn it, you'll pick it up, you'll find new ways of doing things and working with different people. You can't beat experience, can you? So there's going to be a big part of that as well.
Something just jumping on that as well, something that one of my clients said to me last week, and I think it's a fantastic quote, and she's very successful. Like, she's done amazingly, had an incredible career, but she says it's not what you know, it's who you know and what you can make up. And I think she's going to have that on her tombstone at some point, like when she eventually goes that way. But I just, that made me laugh. I thought of that,
So based on all of the stuff that we've talked about for like new trainers and that, and this is an area that I can see us potentially spending a bit of time discussing now. I know it's something that you probably want to go off in a few different tangents with. What do you believe makes a good personal trainer? And then how does someone develop from being like a new PT that's good and got this energy into someone that's excellent? You know, there's clearly going to be a time element and an experience element, but what do you see as being involved in sort of doing and replicating what you've done over the last 4.5 years? Talk us through sort of the facets that are involved with that.
I think a level of personal organization is going to be required. So I know it's something that you're very big on. We've spoken it at great length at times to try and find what works, but personal organization, if you're not in the right space yourself, how can you expect someone else to be there? So number one, having that energy, it's fine to start off with. I mean, I was doing probably 16, 18 hour days, something like that at some point. Like, it was crazy stupid. And I remember sitting down with you in one of our mentoring sessions and just being like, right, I'm going to start waking up at 4 a.m. And it must have been a Jocko Willing thing that I'd seen or something like that. So I was like, I had the crazy idea of like, I'm going to go to bed at like 11 o'clock at night after doing some work. I'm going to wake up at 4 and run off like no sleep and live my life that way. And I think after about 4 weeks, if that, 2 weeks maybe, I was broken. So a level of personal organization that you can pass on to your clients, and that's, very, very simply, it's quite often getting from good to excellent. It's just a matter of time and consistently doing the small things well. And I think if you can constantly get the basics right, you will automatically elevate yourself to, an excellent PT. But from my perspective, that's only ever going to be relative to other people or where you were, so like a year ago. Like, it's very difficult to measure those changes on a day-to-day basis, on a micro level. It's just one of those things that you look back on over time and you think, I was, some of the stuff that I've previously said is just garbage. Like, it's not even worth revisiting. So I'll probably look back on this in a couple of years and just think, what the fuck was I saying there? What is that all about?
You've got to be willing to change your mind on things and change how you do things.
And I think, that's a big part of it. It's that willingness to learn, that having that open mind, the growth, having a growth mindset, being able to accept that, at times you're going to be wrong, you're going to make mistakes, things are going to go south on you, things are going to be, terrible from time to time. And, it's just simply doing those little things well and touching up on your knowledge in each of the major areas that you're aiming to look after your clients. And then I think once you've got that, quality level of knowledge and you can provide a quality level of service, it's a case of along that path, can you figure out who you are and what your message is that you're trying to deliver? And then once you figure that out, you can start to impart that onto other people's lives, and it becomes a lot more evident when someone approaches you in the gym or you approach someone, they understand exactly what it is they're aiming to get from you. So, with a lot of my clients now, when they sign up, it's very, very, or I'm very, very obvious in the way that, if you sign up and you commit to this, if you're going to do this, there's no way out of it. There's no way backwards. Like, we're only ever moving forwards. We're going to be problem solving along the way. And it's just a relentless kind of resilience and fortitude as to that, we're going forwards. That's it. Like, life is going to be better throughout this process, even though there's going to be bumps in the road. And, I think if you can do those things, then you're going to be in a pretty good place. And from my viewpoint, I'm only ever going to be a good PT, because there is always going to be that level above that, I'm kind of looking at and looking to and trying to get to that, always striving for excellence. And I think having that philosophy that you're never always going to be excellent, you're never going to be excellent, but you can always strive for it and push for it. And I think the more you are able to maintain that, like, part of that is just the challenge. Like, you've got to love the challenge, and, people are happiest when they're making progress. So if you're always striving for progress, then you're always going to be in a decent spot.
Yeah. And that's where you make it more about the process rather than the end result, in a way. And that's something that we try and get clients to buy into, isn't it? Is buy into the process. That's what they've got to fall in love with.
Absolutely.
Because the process is the process. The goals will be achieved along the way, but we've got to keep ticking away with the process. Something I would like us to sort of unpack a little bit further is, a few times in that piece there, you mentioned the idea of being excellent requires doing the small things on a consistent basis. What do some of those small things look like for you? Like, give the audience an example of what those small things might be, because they might not have an idea what that looks like.
So, I mean, these small things, I mean, we've talked about them before, and I know you've got a lot of them in place as well, where I've tried to emulate that myself, and it's everything that's part of your system. So it's, are you going to bed consistently at the same time? Are you waking up consistently at the same time? Your first hour of the day, we both know how important that really is. Like, can you maintain that hour for yourself? And it's almost like, can you do things that are going to result in, compound interest throughout the rest of your day and into the next day? So my own routine, I wake up in the morning. I won't go into too much detail on my own routine there, but I wake up in the morning. I'll go and get my coffee or whatever it is, grab my bags. I'll go down to my car, and then my drive into work is about an hour. So whilst I'm in the car, I'm thinking about some of the sessions that I've got coming up, some of the conversations I might need to have. I'm listening to an audio or a podcast every single time. Like, I might, whether I listen to this one or not, I don't know. But I'm always listening to an audio or a podcast, or trying to learn something to start the day off on the right foot. And then I'll probably go into my sessions and spend the entirety of my day talking to my clients about some of the stuff that I've heard or listened to on the way in that I think is relevant for them. And, when you get into that habit, they kind of turn up with an attitude, and, they're pretty fresh, and they understand, that they're getting something new every time. And it's like, oh, didn't know that. And, that's pretty cool. And then they'll go and use it themselves in their own life. So I think, that's probably something that they enjoy getting from me. And then at the moment, I very rarely have too much time. So, like, during my day in the gym, because it's, it's quite backed up, quite busy, but that's good. I do all my sessions, go home, and then in an evening, do the basic stuff there, like any admin stuff, any program writing, take care of my own nutrition, make sure I've done my own training. If I've done all that, make sure I'm in bed on time. But before doing that is your training kit ready for the next day? Have you got your food prep for the next day? And, if you can have all those things in place, you're not scurrying around in the morning, you're not rushing, everything's in place. You just get up and go.
Yeah, good. So plenty of small things. I think some people might be underwhelmed by how simple some of this shit is, but honestly, it's just what he said there. If you can find a way to do those things for yourself on a consistent basis, like, you will do better, full stop. And then it becomes easier to create that for your clients as well, because obviously the ultimate goal is to get our clients doing some form of that, because that then allows them to take care of all the day-to-day stuff, plus the health and fitness stuff, and blah, blah, blah. So So yeah, nothing groundbreaking. It's just basic shit.
It's really boring, isn't it?
It is really boring. But I think what's important to point out with this is that you'll do that for so long, things will go well, and then you'll stop doing one or two of those little things because you've forgotten how important those small things were in getting you to where you are now. And then you almost have to sit back and go, hang on a minute, why do I not feel quite as great? Why have I dropped a couple of clients? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And you always go back to those basics of, am I doing these 4, 5, 6 things every day? And that's something that obviously grows over time. As you say, it compounds. Something I want us to talk about now, Alex, is
that's it. I think.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I think, if you've got those basics in place and, they're just your habits, then it doesn't matter. You could go and have the worst day ever. Anything could happen. And you'll be okay because you just get back onto those simple things. You follow that same old pattern and, before you know it, you're out of the rough patch and you're back to where you were. So, for anyone that goes through a process or a period where they've, maybe lost a few clients, we know it happens all the time. If you've got the simple things in place, it becomes irrelevant. Like, people will come and go and you will get a natural turnover. We're fortunate that we coach our clients the right way and in a way that, they tend to stick around for a really good period of time. And, it just makes it very, very easy to get yourself on a level head and back to where you were, and then move forwards from there. So yeah, those simple things, they can't be hyped up enough.
Yeah, but just to hype them up a little bit more, I was talking to someone about this exact concept the other day. You've just reminded me when you were talking then, and I said to them, like, the way I look at it, and this has come through fucking it up many a time, is that there's so many things in our life now that we are not in control of, and I think to some degree, as humans, we like to be in control of things. I know that some people are control freaks more than others, but I think we all lie on that spectrum somewhere. We like the idea of being in control of our destiny, whatever it is, our day-to-day stuff. If something changes, we're the reason it changes because we've decided it's changed, blah, blah, blah. And when things go tits up, it's generally because something happened that was out of our control. So the way I was talking to someone the other day is you've got to almost relinquish a bit of control and understand you're not in control of everything. But there are certainly 4, 5, 6 things that you can be in control of every day. And if you are in control of those and do them well, when the uncontrollable shit happens, which it will, by the way, all the time, you're just better able to deal with that. And that's something that I've learned over the years. It's something that I see trainers go through, I see clients go through. And it's even an exercise I've had clients do, is write down a list of things that are going on in your life right now. On the left-hand side, we're going to put down the things you can control. We're going to put the things you can't control on the right-hand side. And when they finish that list, I tear the right-hand side off and throw it in the bin and go, you can't control that side, forget about it. And you find that on the side that they can control, there's only like 3 or 4 things anyway. Like, let's focus on these. So
that's it.
I think it buys into that. I think it's the same sort of thing. It's just looking at it from the other side, is look at the stuff you can't control and just accept that if I do the bits I can control, all else will sort of follow in the right direction.
That's it.
So in terms of your stuff that you do on a daily basis, I know that when you work with clients now, because I heard you explain it to someone on Friday, that you have a very, very clear process and a clear vision of what you're going to work on with a client and why you're going to work on with a client. And I'm not sure that this is something that a lot of trainers have. I know that part of that is because you're a well-educated individual. You've been around long enough to sort of find what's important for you. But talk us through this little 4-step system or process, or whatever you would call it. I think you need to give it a funky name. Talk us through it and explain why it is that you decide to focus on things in that order and in that way. Because I thought, when I heard you describe it the other day to a trainer, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you think of a funky name whilst I'm going through any of this, then just let me know.
Challenge accepted.
I'll definitely take it. Yeah, this is what we were keeping everyone waiting for as well, wasn't it? So I apologise now if this is a bit shit or very underwhelming again. The basic process is, it's just 4 simple things that we focus on in sequence, and it's B set. So it's basically based on the order of which you're going to be killed. So number 4 in the process, the T, that's training. So how many people can, or for the rest of this podcast, could you go without, exercising or getting up or doing any sort of squats or dumbbell work or anything like that? You could probably go, I mean, some people go their entire life without necessarily doing it. So we can kind of put that towards the back end in terms of our priorities. And as a strength and conditioning, a performance coach, an exercise person, for me, that's a big shift I had to make very, very early on and try and figure that shit out because, like I said, when I came into ProFit straight after university, I found myself really, really struggling to pick people up. And I was walking around, not like physically pick people up, but I mean, sign people up as clients. And I was walking around the gym confused as to, why is this not working? Why am I not signing people up? And then, the final thing was like, why are these people getting average results or making very slow progress? So that was where I had to eventually add these other three aspects to it. So obviously the eating, so that's the E. So that's the third part of the process where, you could probably go a month, maybe a little bit longer without any sort of like nutrition or sustenance. So that was kind of like the next step in it before that, where you're focusing on the training, you got the eating patterns, and then, moving to step number 2, which is the sleeping. So sleeping for the S, sleep deprivation is a form of torture. It's no fun. I've tried it myself. It sucks. And you will die from lack of sleep before you die from lack of food. So simple as that. If you're sleeping shit, your eating will be off and your training will be off. So we can forget about it. That's the order that those three are going to go. And, if there's anyone out there that's training as a secret agent right now and you want to know how I did this, then just give me a phone call. But I delivered a presentation on these very 4 principles to a group of postnatal mums with very young children, and preaching to the converted was trying to coach them and teach them into how important sleep is, how they need more of it, and how it's very important in their lives. And I could just see them like very much just like you'd expect, just nodding away like daggers looking at me. I'm like, right, okay, if we can't control the kids running around, let's at least put some sort of routine and work a routine that is going to help the sleep side of it. Like, it's no good just saying you need to get more sleep. So learning how to coach that is a very big step. So if you want to know how I got out of that room alive, then feel free to give me a bell. But then the part before that and the thing that leads into that and helping improve that sleep is the breathing aspect. So, you can go the rest of this podcast without moving. You can go the rest of this podcast without eating. You can go the rest of this podcast without falling asleep, hopefully. Hopefully there's no one nodding off right now. But could you go the rest of this podcast without breathing? That would be my question to you. Chances are, a couple of minutes of not breathing, you're going to, be in significantly dire consequences. And then, it's only a matter of minutes after that where it becomes life-changing and then fatal. So that is the primary pillar that we focus on. So every single client that comes in and sees me, we now have it as part of our movement assessment at ProFit. Every single client that comes in and sees me, they know that that's the first thing they've got to practice and master to get right. Great book out on it, which is The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McEwen. And, I'd recommend that to anyone. It's got some incredible stats on it, incredible little, loads of little exercises and things that you can practice. The links with breathing and poor posture, we're doing a postural assessment, they're pretty evident. We can't master any other movement or any other function without breathing appropriately or breathing properly. We cannot master it. So, you might be able to get by on a day-to-day basis. And everyone out there is obviously doing okay to some degree right now due to the fact that they're still alive. But, can we do it better? Can we improve it to the point where it changes our life and we can control it? And I kind of, figured this out through personal experience, having asthma. When you go through a period of, when you can't breathe, it's pretty, stressful.
Yep.
It will definitely put you into a different nervous system. So, can we control the branch of our nervous system? And from an S&C point of view, you're looking at down regulation of athletes, calming them down after exercise, bringing them down to the recovery process as fast as possible. And then its application with clients is really, really simple. So, there've been times where, especially in the beginning, you practice some of the breathing at the start. You get them doing nasal breathing, warm-up drills, just breathing in and out through their nose. So there's no talking, there's no, verbal communication in that. So I get a nice peaceful start. They get to listen to me. They go through all the warm-up drills. They've done that. And, that in itself is a pretty tough start. It makes them work fairly hard. And you can see there's a definite change in them. So you go through that. And then obviously as you exercise, you have to accept that at some point you're going to be kind of gasping, needing to get more air in to avoid, passing out. But at the end of the session, to bring them down, you just lie them down. You can raise feet up onto a step box. Just do box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. That should be a 4-second process, and then hold it for 4 seconds. And you just cycle through that a few times. And then, exercise is a stressful process. The only exercise that isn't is walking, especially if you go for a bit of a walk outside. That's a perfect de-stressing tool. So if we're bringing clients into the gym, we're stressing them out, we're causing them pain. They see us as, a bit of a villain at times, especially when they know it's going to be a tough one. And then, if we don't do that, if we don't finish the session in the right way, we send them off into the outside world, stressed up, they're pent up, they've got all this energy in them, even if they feel slightly broken. And then they go home, they walk into their partners or the rest of their life, and, that just continues. So if we can separate that gym aspect, and we can control the things that happen in the gym, and then we send them off into the real world, de-stressed, relaxed, able to think, their blood is oxygenated to a good level, that everything improves for them, and they can have better conversations, they can problem solve. The actions they set at the end of the session will be a lot clearer, and it kickstarts everything else that follows. So to summarize that, it's breathing is number 1, sleep number 2, eat is number 3, and then train or move is going to be the number 4. So just follow those 4 things in that priority, and it tends to work quite well.
And I know that for people that are hearing that for the first time, Alex, they're going to be a bit concerned about the idea of, having to teach the clients to breathe and like making it part of something that they do. How have you generally found clients taking to it? Like how's it normally received from a client perspective? Is it something you have to explain in a great detail? Like, what's your experience been with that?
For me, it's really, really simple. Number 1, go and practice it yourself.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're stressed out, or you're going through a bit of a difficult patch, you feel your heart rate elevates, your breathing accelerates, you end up breathing from the chest a bit more. As soon as you become conscious of it, you can start to change it. So it's, just basically shut your mouth, breathe in and out through your nose, try and slow everything down, and you'll see how quickly it changes your physiology. And as soon as you can do that and you realize how important it is for you, then you can start to apply it to clients. And, I generally start off with everyone and I say, do you want to feel an immediate difference right now? Do you want to change the way you feel right this moment? And they say yes, and you go, right, okay, well, let's just try this then. And, you can make them aware, you might feel a little bit silly if you're lying down in the gym in sort of like the stretching area. I mean, I don't know why that would be so weird, but, you get them lying down in the stretching area on the mat, just hands relaxed, either across their chest or, by their side, and just ask them to breathe. Just breathe in and out through the nose. They don't even have to close their eyes. They don't have to hold any sort of fancy yoga pose. It's pretty much just lying down, chilling out, relaxing, and straight away they'll feel that difference, and they'll be like, oh, that's good, that. And you go, all right, well, are you going to go and practice that again later tonight? Do it before you go to bed, and voila, sleep improves as well. Incidentally, a little tip on that: if anyone's got a partner that snores, don't pinch their nose, put your hand over their mouth. It might be a little bit sadistic, but the reason they're snoring is because they're breathing. So try that one.
Yeah.
See how many people wake up with a black eye now.
Yeah. Cool. So Alex's process there, dead simple. It's breathing, sleep, eating, training, just to re-emphasize that. And it's something now that he's teaching more and more frequently to our trainers that are coming through, and people right from the off are getting access to this sort of stuff. So that's where what we're doing now for clients is always leveling up and changing and moving more down that route of not just training and exercise, but sort of whole lifestyle and well-being, being on point. Now,
Yeah.
to move go on.
Can I just add to that as well? So, like, just so no one gets mixed up, that they're not 4 different sessions. We don't practice each one separately. The breathing is just the focus at the start of the session. It's a normal training session. You just discuss the breathing, you practice the drills. Then, so like session 2, you go through the normal session, you introduce the sleep factor, and so on and so forth. So you're still working on everything in tandem. They're not missing out on training till sort of like session 4 or 5 or whatever it is. But yeah, it's just where you put the emphasis at the start, and it's the start of the client's education process.
Yeah, definitely. So to move the conversation in a slightly different direction, one of the things that Alex wanted to discuss today was the trainer-mentor relationship, which upon reading, I was a little bit reluctant to go into, because if it goes well as a conversation, it feels very self-indulgent. If it doesn't go well, then this podcast will never air, and I'll just delete it. So talk to us about, because I mentor Alex and have done since day one. So talk to us about why you put that down as something you wanted to discuss, Alex. Like, what was it about trainer-mentor relationship, sort of your time and development over the years? Why was it that was something you put down and wanted to discuss?
I just like hearing from you, to be honest, mate.
Cheers for that. Not many people do.
I think obviously it's a major part of something that we do at Profit. So my main question to you was, like, what got you down the mentoring path? Obviously, I've gone education. What made you go into mentoring, and what is it that you gain from it to the point where you want to keep doing it and enjoying it to the level that you do?
So for the listeners out there, I didn't realize Alex was going to start asking me questions. So he's had a chance to prepare. I haven't. So yeah, for me, for mentoring, I mean, it felt like a natural progression from having earned my stripes as a PT and doing fairly well in that area. I felt that I'd done a really, really good job of building a PT business. I've always had a natural passion for business, like the business side of any business and any industry. I quite like learning about the sort of business systems and things around whatever it is that someone does. So I thought going a bit more into the business side of personal training and helping others develop that, because I felt it was something I did quite well in terms of like business systems and setting yourself targets and goals and looking at numbers and things like that. The other side of it is that I really like spending time with like-minded people. And obviously the other Profit trainers are a natural fit for that. So over the years, I feel like I've got very good at knowing who my client base should be, what they should look like as people, and what sort of values they've got, and how they like to push themselves, why they like to push themselves. And I feel that the mentoring, it just allows me to work with another extension of those sets of people. It's working, again, alongside people similar to me that are just a few steps newer into that system than I am. And I see it now as my job is to help them get to where I've got to, just in a shorter time period than I have. And so that they're at a point where they're better than I am when they reach, the same time point that I'm at now. So I'm 8-9 years in now. So when you're 8-9 years in, you should be ahead of where I am now. That's the way I see it. So it's not that different from the PT in terms of how I view it. It's just a different way of doing it. It's just a different way of having good conversations as well. That's another thing, is that it's a great platform to have good, meaningful conversations with people that are about growth and moving forwards and things like that.
I like it. I like it a lot. What would you say, makes a good mentee? So, from a personal viewpoint, I always feel like I try and bring something to our mentoring sessions so that we've actually got something to talk about. I know there's probably one occasion where I've been so exhausted and tired, I've just kind of sat down with you and gone, mate, I don't want to talk about anything today. Should we play table tennis or something like that?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like, for any trainers out there that with us or not with us, what makes a good mentee? How can mentoring be made useful and effective for us?
I think it's the same. It's almost the same things that make a good client a good client. So it's understanding that whilst the mentor will always do their utmost to bring the most value to the table, it is a two-way relationship. So in the same way that you do loads for your clients, the clients that get the most out of your services are the ones that come to you as well. They're the clients that text you outside of a session asking for a bit of extra help, or to remind them of that stretch, or to ask you if you'll just double check their food diary and make sure they're on track, rather than the ones that stay quiet. So it's the same with mentoring. It's the people that, will turn up on time and have some stuff prepared for the actual session, which is almost like a basic expectation. You've got to come prepared. You've got to come ready to talk about your business and moving forward. You've got to come into those sessions with like a solutions-based mindset. If you've got problems, which you probably are going to have, let's figure them out and let's move forwards. But then also, what are you doing outside of that? How can you add to that relationship as a mentor and mentee, so that you yourself as the mentee get more out of it? Because there's nothing wrong with wanting to get more out of anything if you feel that you can. And quite often, the clients that ask the most of you as a trainer are generally the clients that you get along with best. They sort of expect the most from you. They ask the most of you. They probably ask the most questions. And yet they're the people you enjoy working with most, because it feels like you're always providing for them, and they're the people that get the best results. It's the same with your mentees. So yeah, like you said, turning up prepared, being ready to have open and honest conversations as well is a big part of that. And then making use of those systems and those resources outside of that one-to-one time.
I like it a lot. And obviously, as my mentor, I'll give you a little bit of credit. You've done a decent job.
Cheers, mate.
Position is not available at the moment. So you can go with that. Obviously, like you've got experience of going through everything before the new trainers have, which is obviously another massive benefit to being part of the system and being a cog in the wheel, so to speak. And in terms of like general life events, I've recently bought a house myself. I know you've done that in the past, and you will generally go out your way to do things that your mentees will need help with, like recording videos or podcasts and things like that. So always very, very useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it's that's another good thing that I get out of mentoring, is that it's an easy way for me to hold myself accountable. Is that if I know I'm going to have to help you go through something, I've sure as well better hope that I've been through it myself. I know that something that I talked to you guys about recently was, planning for the future and sorting out your pensions and things like that, and looking at the different options. And when I first started thinking about that myself, I thought, oh shit, like I've not actually done this myself yet. And it became like a 6-month obsession of just like making sure I know this inside out, and that I've come up with a plan and a system, so that in the same way you can sit there and explain your 4-step process of what you take clients through, I now feel that I've developed that for myself within that area of helping trainers plan for the future. So it's great for me, that, because like most people, I work best when I've got that sort of pressure and that deadline and that accountability to other people. And although I might not always set it as something with you guys that I'm definitely going to go through, it's on my mind that, right, at some point we're going to need to discuss this. I'd better make sure that I'm prepared for that and that I've gone through it myself. So like you say, whether that be buying houses, whether that be sorting out boring insurances that actually are really important, whether it be planning for the future and looking at pensions, whatever it is, having kids, another example. I didn't do that just for mentoring purposes, by the way. I did actually want a child. It just helps you prepare and understand what things, the people that you help are going to be going through in the not too distant future as well. And similarly, if you can help them get those things set up sooner than you did, it can only be a positive, can't it? If I help you get a pension plan in place 4 years earlier than I did, brilliant. You're going to have a wealthier retirement than me. Fantastic. That's my job. In the same way that the people that mentor me do the same for me. So yeah, it's for me, it's just another form of accountability.
Yeah, I think like you said as well, that go through it yourself first factor. That's another thing that makes, when we were discussing earlier about what makes a good PT, that going through it yourself first. That's the whole reason that we do that week 1, where they're accountable to their own nutrition. They have to train. It's not like you just do your own thing. You have to experience something before you go and give it to a client. Like, you know, if you ask them to do a specific exercise that you've never done, how can you possibly coach it effectively if you don't even know what the exercise feels like yourself? So, going through it yourself is definitely a big one. And hopefully Oscar will not find out that he's conceived due to mentoring purposes.
Well, yeah, I know this is a problem. This thing will probably stay around on the internet for quite some time. So going back to some of the stuff that I'd written down for you, I've got a few sort of quick fire questions that I wanted us to go into, because I think there's some value to be had just in these like off the cuff questions. As a trainer and a coach, what do you see as being 2 or 3 of the most influential books that have helped you in your development as a trainer or in your career or in life? I know you're very well read. You listen to a lot of stuff. You read a lot of stuff. What are the standout ones for you?
I think, I know you said quick fire, but I was thinking about this. Obviously, there's a lot of good information to be had out of any book, my take on it is you can learn anything from anyone. But in terms of books and the way that I now conduct myself and do everything and the things that I felt have spoken to me, obviously I've got to put Extreme Ownership up there. Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, Legacy, all about the All Blacks, Challenging Beliefs by Tim Noakes, which is it's a very good one. And then the last one that I have recommended this to quite a few people and given it out as presents from time to time is one that I would say, in terms of it being life-changing, it will definitely change the way that you live your life, and it's Why We Sleep. And again, you know, fits in with one of my 4 key pillars. So, they'd be my top book recommendations.
Good. Okay. So I'll make sure, just for anyone that's listening now and trying to, you know, dangerously scribble those notes down whilst driving the car or anything, don't do that. I'll have all the links to the books and stuff on the show notes, and I'll give you the link to that at the end. So next one then, Alex, in terms of, and we've probably touched on this a little bit earlier on, but what advice would you be giving to brand new level 3 PTs now? So let's say, for example, that there's a trainer out there right now that's just qualified, that is going out alone, you know, they're not part of Profit, whatever it is, they're starting their own business, they're self-employed, they're a freelance PT. What advice would you be giving them right now? Like, if you step into my shoes as being a mentor, what would you be telling them to do from day one?
Straight off the bat, be present, be in the gym, be energetic, speak to as many people as possible. Like we said before, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then if you want, it's what you can make up off the back of it. Depends on your values on that one, of course. But, get to know people. Like I said, you can learn anything from anyone. It's just listen and look for the opportunity in everything. Even if you fail, and one of the things I would say is expect to fail. I've had plenty of failures and mishaps along the way in this journey, and I've no doubt that there's going to be more down the line. And all right back to the start of Profit when it was Easy Fit. It's one of those things you can definitely expect to fail, and then however you do fail, all it is a case of problem solving. I think when I put it into perspective for a few people, try and say a homeless person has money problems. Bill Gates has money problems. They're just very different types of problems. Like, the homeless person might be wondering where the next meal is going to come from, like where they can, buy a bed for the night, for example, or something like that. Whereas, Bill Gates is going to be thinking, how many million can I give to this charity? Just 2 very different sets of problems. And if you solve enough problems, eventually, you develop better ones. So expect to fail and then just go for it.
While you're on that note of sort of problems and failure, definitely not a failure, but certainly was a problem. This time last year, you were in a hospital bed after breaking your leg from a terrible football injury. And he wasn't just putting on that limp, by the way. I actually saw him in hospital. It looked fairly serious. Talk to us about what you had to problem solve at that point. I know it's sort of meant to be a quick fire bit, this, but give us some of the things that were going through your head and how you came back from overcoming that injury and sort of building again.
Oh man, yeah, this could be a very long story. So if you need to stop me short, just stop me. Yeah, it's kind of a problem when your legs pointing in the wrong direction. It's never an easy thing to swallow. It's quite weird to look at it. But I was actually in hospital for over a week. I was in there for about 8 days, I think. And they operated on me, put everything back into place where it needed to be, and sent me home. And I was like, when can I go back to work? I'm like, can I get in there tomorrow, kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, no, you need plenty of time. I think in the end it was about 6 weeks off from the gym. And as someone who's self-employed, it's a pretty shit time. I was fortunate that the World Cup was on, so I didn't go absolutely crazy, but because I just got into a routine. I got into the same pattern day in, day out, and just kept ticking over. And that it's kind of that acceptance of this is all you need to do. So in terms of my actual problems, I had to speak to the likes of yourself, Steve. We had to reschedule some of the education or get teachers in to do it. So we had to get people in to cover that. I had to get people to come in and look after my clients. And I remember at the start, I was saying to a lot of my clients, like, I've got plenty of time. I'm going to, do this for you. We'll do Skype calls and this, that, the other. And I was on that many painkillers, man. I was like, I must have been off my face. I had so many intentions at the start of working on so many aspects of my business whilst I was down, but I couldn't even do that because I was so drugged up and drowsy all the time. Like I was literally going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, or as soon as the final game in the World Cup finished, I was waking up at 10 a.m. the next morning. And that was literally that pattern. And it was just rinse and repeat with that. So I literally, for someone who bases their entire life around being active, being healthy on a daily basis, running around, doing stuff, being around various other people, to being confined to, one room or just the house and not even being able to walk, or, having, like I had to be laid down for, the entirety of the time that I was kind of at home, and I could only spend, a few minutes on my feet. Otherwise there was, significant risk of blood clotting and various other complications off the back of that. So, it was quite awkward, but you learn a lot about yourself when you go through those kinds of situations. And something that is going to come up in our next education is how to mentally deal with those aspects of injury, and the different psychological stages that you'll go through as well. So there's plenty for our guys to look forward to on that. And it won't all be like me talking about me or anything, but there's some very good, useful things there that, I've then gone on and applied with clients that have, had to go and see the physios for significant issues or whatever. So, in that time, you go through that process, you lose clients, you lose business, you're not in the gym, so you're not being seen. You come back in, everyone in the gym thinks you're a new trainer because you've been away for like 6 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you've just got to start again. You've got to go all over again. And that had a massive knock-on effect for months after that. So I had to go through all my own physical rehab. I couldn't walk on I was still on crutches for a considerable period of time. And just being able to demonstrate things like if you can't physically show someone something, your levels of communication in other areas have to step up a little bit. So off the top of my head, they were the challenges that kind of came up in that. And I'm sure there were plenty more if I look back into it a bit deeper.
Yeah, but like you say, at the same time, like a massive learning curve about your own sort of mindset and stuff, and then your ability to coach as well. Like you say, you have to step it up in other ways. So yeah, it's as awful as it is, and you'd never wish it on anyone. You've got to look at what positives you take from it, haven't you, and how
Absolutely.
it changes. Yeah, it's the only way. It's the only way we can look at it. And again, it's then something we pass on to clients in terms of dealing with tough situations. And this rounds off quite nicely, actually, as my talking of tough situations, and as my last quick fire question. As a pair of Manchester United fans, what's going to happen this season?
Oh dear. Do you know what? I'm looking forward to being a Man United fan this year again. I think from the signings that we've made and the team that we've got now and the way that we played during pre-season. I mean, pre-season means nothing, but just the energy in the team, the mentality around it, it feels like it's back in line with what I want to watch, who I am as a person. Like, I don't know, I didn't base Man United as my football team based on my values, but I feel like it's definitely had a filtering effect into me watching us grow up and win and just be relentless and ruthless, and second, losing, whatever it is, it's not an option. So I'd like to say that we're going to win the league, we're going to win everything. I think it's going to be a good season. It'll be an improvement on last season. I just hope that those other folks from down the road, or further west towards Merseyside, don't do a job. that we would have to go into hiding. If the Profit podcast stops next year, don't be surprised if that's what happens.
Yeah.
They will both just disappear.
I'm with you. It can't get much worse, and hopefully there's one or two Man United players that have listened to your advice for PTs on please turn up with a bit of energy. That'd be fantastic.
just do that. Just do that and run around, whatever it is.
Yeah,
just
don't matter. If we concede 3, let's score 4. So yeah, that'd be the mentality.
That's it.
So before we finish off today, Alex, any sort of key little bits to finish off with, any little takeaways at the end that you want to leave the audience with, and sort of tied into that, if people want to find out a little bit more about you, is there anywhere you want to send them so that they can come and find you online?
Yeah, sure. I can tell them where they can find me. Whether they can spell it and get there is another thing. So it might be, if you include it in the notes at the end.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely include the link.
I think key takeaways, number one is got to be simplify the process. Don't exhaust yourself trying to find this method, that method, follow this blueprint or whatever. Just simplify your process. Once you've done that, prioritize and execute. If you need more clients, go and get more clients, go and speak to more people, go and do those things, whatever's needed most. And then the last thing that I would say to bear in mind is that, and I absolutely love this, it's persistence beats resistance every single time. Like the big shots are the little shots that just keep on firing. And if you're in a fight with someone and they do not go away and they do not stop, you automatically hate being there. So put yourself on the other side, be that person that is just persistent about absolutely everything. And I think if you can do that, no matter what, you're going to come out on top. You're going to be on another level.
Class. That is a great. Go on.
And I am Alex Lenkowski Performance.
Right. Yeah, that's where you'll find him.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. That's where you'll find me. Although I don't really do too much on either, but I'm getting back to some little 60-second quick tip coaching, life advice, motivation style little videos. So, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you check some of those out. He posts some good stuff. When I can get his head in the right place and get him do it consistently, he does a good job of it. So yeah, the world needs more 60-second Lenkowski videos. So yeah, on that note, Alex, thank you very much for coming along today. It's been a long time in waiting, but I think there's some massive value in there for trainers, sort of new and old. So yeah, it's been great having you on today, mate.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope it's been useful for everyone that's listened.
I'm sure it has been, and I'm sure that at some point we'll get you on again, and we'll probably go into some of the more specific areas in terms of lessons and teachings that you're going through with our trainers. So that'll be interesting to get you back on about. So yeah, cheers for that, mate.
Awesome, mate. Cheers.